No? Sure? All right, let me close the public portion then. All right, board members, you've heard the public discussion. You've heard a great deal of discussion about this, and it's really time that we tell council what we think and send it back. So,
I just had a quick question for Lee on the history of the setback or the buffer zone, because the neighbors were alluding to the fact that the plans haven't changed, but my understanding with the earlier discussion was that since the neighbors first expressed concerns in earlier hearings that buffer has been increased from the 40 feet to the 100. Can you confirm or?
Right. There were a variety of plans submitted. At one point, the developer had a 25-foot buffer. Another point, there was 50-foot, and the most recent ones have been at 100 feet. So there has been some movement on that. There has been some change in the lot configurations based on the wetlands and the configuration for the affordable housing site as well.
Ms. Ullman?
Yeah, well, this is not a site plan review. We're talking about an ordinance. And some of my colleagues who are detailed oriented have raised really, I think, good questions. My view is the somewhat broader one of making the best of a situation that's rather complicated. And frankly, I think this ordinance does that. It gives the applicant who has a right to build on his land within the zoning the right to do that in a way that seems whoever the applicant was and whatever the land would be, that we can argue about that at the time we consider the site plan. But I do think that it preserves a sizable portion of the land, and that's right in line with our master plan. And it provides us with a future site for affordable housing, which is also right inside with our master plan. And our master plan is designed to create a benefit to the entire community, not just the neighborhood or even just the zone. And I have to say, I think this ordinance as revised, and I don't know about the wetland provisions that were suggested, but I think it does that, and I certainly, for one, feel quite comfortable with it in its current state.
Well, Jenny?
Is the buffer part of the ordinance, though? I mean, maybe we should discuss that, because I'd like to increase the buffer to, 250 feet or something, similar to the other one that the people mentioned from Campbell Woods. I don't know how other people feel about increasing the buffer.
Jenny, if I could just, in fairness, as I understood what they were talking about, the buffer for Campbell Woods, that was for, I think it's a 2 or 3 story nursing home up against a residential, which is a little bit different than this. This is half-acre lots,
okay.
1-acre lots. Just to put it in
okay, thank you.
Go ahead and have your discussion.
Yeah, no, thank you. That's good.
Fairness,
but I mean, even before I heard that, I was...
And Campbell Woods was a use variance. I mean, so there was no buffer put in by council or the planning board. It went to the zoning board.
Okay. I still want to put increasing the buffer on the table with the other planning board members.
Why we're considering that suggestion, also for your attention, on the revenue plan, some of the other. Sorry.
Yeah, I can't hear you.
I'd just also like to point out for your information is that the plans that Mr. Solo showed you also denotes the setbacks of the homes on Herringtown Lane to our property. And I think all of them are less than 100 feet. So...
Wait, could you repeat that to what? I didn't hear it.
The homes on Herringtown Lane, the setback of those homes to our property.
Oh, to your property, okay.
All of them are less than 100 feet.
And keep in mind that the buffer is to the property line.
Correct.
So there's another 25 feet of setback within the properties, and homes, the structures are likely to be
Towards the front of the wall.
towards the road. So The actual amount of space between these homes and the homes that are likely to get built is in the neighborhood of 300 feet. I mean, maybe a little bit less, but
So you're not in favor of it, of increasing the
of
buffer?
increasing the buffer. I'm not in favor of increasing the buffer. I think that
When is-
I would also just like to echo Gail's statement that I think that this ordinance is an improvement in many ways over the existing zoning for the neighbors on Harrington Lane, and I think that it's supported by the environmental community in town. I think that there are a lot of, and it's great, it's a great opportunity from an affordable housing standpoint. I do think that this location on Mount Lucas is a pretty good location, not as good as the one by the shopping center, but why can't we do both if the opportunity arises? So I think on a number of levels, this is an improvement over the existing zoning, and I would support it.
Right, and that one of the things that we tend to forget is that most people, even in affordable housing, have to have some sort of automobile transportation. And this has been shown again and again that within a year or so they acquire cars of some sort or ride share. I should say, when Professor Howarth was talking about research, I did look up to see just what the setback was when their development was built. It was called Cedar Brook Homes, and it bordered on an OR zone, and the setback would have been 150 feet as planned. Of course, the zoning has changed a number of times on this lot, so it would have been only 150 feet to a parking lot for various office buildings and so on, and that's what the original buyers bought into. So, the fact that you've enjoyed really the wonderful landscape and the woods and so on has been a bonus that wasn't expected at the time that the houses were put in.
And I would also like to reassure the neighbors that many of their concerns will be appropriately addressed at the time that a plan review is performed. And I think, you could hear from the tenor of the questions throughout the evening that we're concerned about what the right number of units is on this property based on whether all of those 20 lots in the sample plan are actually developable and so on and so forth. Concerns about the environmental quality of the soil and the farm area, all of those things we will be focused on when this comes around for an actual plan review.
And things like lighting, which is very important when you get a new development next year, will be one of the things that we will be looking at that time. So, anyone else like to weigh in on this? I should say that I'm very much in favor of the cluster and cluster development. I think it's one of those things that really is environmentally sound, and I hope that we'll see it a couple of other places under this ordinance. And noise pollution is another problem in this building. Anyway. If there's nothing else,
A protest.
yes, would someone like to make a motion on this?
I would move that we recommend the zoning changes as presented to the council.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Mr.
I think one addition would be in that section defining unusable, to put in there somewhere a reference to wetlands.
Yeah, we could, it actually does refer to another section of the ordinance, section 185. I looked at that. It doesn't actually say wetlands there either, but so I wouldn't hurt to put it in here. But
Okay.
when we get to amend section 185, we would definitely put it in there.
Or we could either put it in 185, or here where it says unusual, it says 185, other unusual suitable conditions, including wetlands, right before the parentheses closes. And that's in section 191.2.
Any
Yeah,
other emendations?
Well, I want to just, I have I just have doubts, and I'm not really comfortable right now. I'm still mulling this over because it seems like there's a difference between clustering, say, for even 2 acre or 1 acre, but clustering when the underlying zoning is 4 acres, like I said, I have a feeling that we might regret this when I'm sure that there's probably a developer ready to buy that is going to come in and build these 1.5 million houses, and I have to tell you, I'm hesitant about it. I wonder if we left the underlying zoning, well, I guess probably that it would do the 27. So,
And we wouldn't get any of the benefits.
And then when we're talking about the affordable housing, getting property is one thing, building affordable housing is another. And just I'm really conscious of our budget and the affordable housing budget, and I haven't heard anyone coming forward and saying that there's a nonprofit coming to build 100% affordable housing. And so I think it means that we're likely to sell it to a developer for, a high-density multifamily, and probably get like 5 units out of it or something. And I'm not sure the trade-off is worth it when you look at the big picture. That is $1.5 million houses. Is that the kind of thing that we want more of here in print? So I'm just giving you all of my feelings because I'm on the council. I don't feel comfortable right now. I don't want to commit by myself voting in favor of it, so I'm not going to vote in favor of it. That's not to say that my mind is made up, but I just feel like since I have to vote on it again, I don't want to.
All we are doing is voting to send it to council, and you're sitting on council, so.
I know, so I don't want to. I don't want to give my imprimatur to it because I'll do it later.
Well, that's your privilege, Mr. Quinn.
Yes, I think it's been difficult for all of us to separate out the ordinance from this site, and I hear Jenny's concerns, and I believe, Mr. Solo, if you could correct me if I'm wrong, that there's only sort of one other buildable plot of land where this cluster in a residential zone, excluding E-zones, where this sort of...
That's all we could locate at a staff level. I mean,
So was Yasna-Polana.
not perfect, but that's the only one that immediately comes to mind. I mean, because you need a minimum of 75 acres. There aren't many vacant 75-acre sites.
Okay.
In fairness, no one can ever deal with the issue of land acquisition and consolidation, but that's an issue always.
Jenny, one other point that I'd like for you to consider is that, if these 4-acre lots were developed in a way to minimally impact the lots, you might be right that it would be a lighter footprint than
Or
a
not
cluster.
built because it's just too hard.
And this is what I wanted to say is, there are going to be individuals who are going to purchase those lots. Somebody may feel like they want to set back their house 300 feet from the road to have a grand approach, and you're going to disturb half the lot, and, we won't really have any control over that because single-family site plans don't come before us. So I think you're rolling the dice if you say just to reduce the number of houses by 3, or, that, you're going to take that risk that the development's going to be seriously more harmful to the environment on the ridge.
Okay. We have a motion. We've had, and you both accept the amendment that Ellen
do,
made to
yes.
it. Okay. Would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Cohen?
Yes.
Ms. Crummiller?
No.
Mrs. Trotman?
Yes.
Mrs. Ullman?
Yes.
Mrs. Gunning?
Yes.
Mr. Quinn?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you very much.
Right, and thank you all for coming and speaking.